8 weeks leading up to the fight, I'm sure it's a very structured approach, and then they actually go into the fight. How long after a fight will you actually make contact with the athlete, and then actually what will you be doing with them? Will you go right into conditioning and right back into strength stuff, or do you guys wait 6 weeks for them to recover? I'm always interested in what you guys do when you guys leave the ring, win or lose. How long do you give those guys to recover after a fight to get them back on the horse, per se, and get going after it again?
Honestly, it really depends. First of all, I mean, of course, there's a lot of variables. You know, how bad did, if he was on the losing end, unfortunately, how bad was the knockout? You know, did he get tapped out? Any joint issues? Those sorts of things, of course. But I mean, if someone, you know, won and didn't incur too much damage, then we usually give them a couple weeks off, 2 or 3 weeks off, let them eat what they want. You know, these are young guys, so let them go party, have some fun, celebrate the victory that they earned. And then we get focused again. So I'd say usually 2 to 3 weeks. But I've worked with guys a week after the fight, and then there's been guys that I haven't seen for 2 months after a fight. So, you know, just depending on how bad the damage was, if you will. 2 to 3 weeks after the fight, as soon as we get going again, it's just to give you an idea, it's usually, and there's not a fight lined up, we're usually just doing some, I like to call it just foundational strength training, some real basic, some heavy lifts, some deadlifts and squats for the lower body, some pushes and pulls for the upper body, pull-ups and maybe dumbbell chest press, things like that. So just to start building that base foundation again, and then when we hit camp, we already have a nice strong strength base so we can just take it from there.
With all the positions that they're being contorted in for submissions and those types of things, whether it's jiu-jitsu or what have you, I mean, how do you go about practicing that flexibility within those joints? Is that something that's actually occurring during practice, or is there something that you're implementing in your sessions as well?
From a flexibility standpoint, I definitely incorporate a lot. I'll do a lot of mobility and stability drills at the beginning of every session. I kind of incorporate it into my dynamic warm-ups that I do. And we always do some sort of stretching and flexibility work at the end, whether it's the use of a TRX or partner stretches even, or using the wall. On their off day, some nice gentle yoga I always recommend. But for me specifically, the flexibility, I kind of loop that in with some injury prevention stuff. So there's some mobility drills that I always like to do with the guys, and I've run some screens on all the guys that I work with. I use the FMS protocol for most of the guys. So there's some common areas that these fighters are always typically getting injured, and it's usually, I'd say number 1 and 2 are the shoulder joint and knees a lot, especially shoulders. I mentioned before I was on the Ultimate Fighter show, and I screened the 8 guys on our team, and every single one of them failed the shoulder mobility test, and I see it with all the guys that I work with on a consistent basis. So those shoulder stability, and more specifically that T-spine mobility, is huge. So I guess to answer the question, I do incorporate a lot of drills at the beginning and end of every session.